always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to what it is to be inseparable. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. If you love someone, put their name in a circle instead of a heart, because hearts can break, but circles go on forever. I've always liked that quote. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Edwin McCain, and I Could Not Ask for More. And Paul McCartney with My Love. It's March 12th, 2010. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This is a story called Inseparable. It was written by Susan Ager, and I hope I pronounced her name correctly. It was featured in Chicken Soup for the Couple's Soul. She writes, and I quote, "In the end, when the statistics of their love affair were tallied, this amazing detail emerged. Paul and Linda McCartney spent nearly every night together. Otherwise, Linda traveled with the Beatles and Paul's other bands. He joined her on tours to promote her photography and cookbooks. At home or away, they slept beneath the same roof, mingling breath and sweat and memory. A few nights before I learned that Linda McCartney had died, I sat in a strange city, sharing dinner with 24 other journalists. Most of us had flown solo to the conference, leaving family at home. At dinner, we made mostly small talk, the best strangers can do. I felt artificial, not at all myself on stage, but the man beside me seemed real. As we talked, he glanced often toward his wife, who sat across the table and down a ways, engaged in her own conversation. In his youth, he told me, he hopscotched the world, hungry for adventure, covering war and cataclysm. 2 marriages failed. He settled down and married again, then spent last year in South Africa. His wife couldn't be with him except for brief visits. She has a thriving career here. Now, on the brink of 60, he'd love to return to South Africa, but a new sensation holds him back. He told me, I want to be with her. I want to be with her every night. I gulped and nodded and said, life is short. Unquote. More of Susan's story shortly. With Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Faith Hill and Breathe and Aerosmith and I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. More of this story called Inseparable. It was featured in Chicken Soup for the Couple's Soul. And again I quote, "Funny, when you're young, you say, life is short, to justify your excursions, geographic or emotional. When you're older, you say the same thing to justify staying home with the one you love. That kind of relationship sounds stifling to some people. They want space. They fear being engulfed or getting lost in some rigid twosome. Early in my marriage, I felt that way. Our work often separated us. He flew off, I flew off. It felt invigorating. And when it wasn't lonely, it seemed healthy. We even came up with a good metaphor. We traveled through life in different boats that moored, whenever they could, in the same harbor. Now, we want nothing more than to tie our dinghies to the same buoy, to rock gently together through each night. Our friends report the same change of heart. What happened? Unquote. We'll find out what did happen to her and to her friends. More of Susan's story shortly. With Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Lady Antebellum and Need You Now. John Lennon with Woman and Lonestar, and I'm Already There. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. The contributor of the story Inseparable, featured in Chicken Soup for the Couple's Soul, was at the time of the book's publication a lifestyle columnist for the Detroit Free Press, who writes about the choices people make. At the time of publication, she had been married for 13 years to the same man. She had watched friends and family members as they struggled to couple and uncouple. Unquote. Before we continue with the story called Inseparable by Susan Ager, take a listen to this poem. It is by Giacchino Akiko. She writes, and I quote, "What shall I wear to sleep in alone? An under kimono of silk crepe, dyed the hushed red of dawn. It touches the skin like heavy mist falls on flowers. In the candle's glowing flame, its smallest motion has a beauty that makes me catch my breath, even in this bedroom without you. It's strange, but as I slip under the quilts in the cold February bed, my heart returns to the days when I first loved you. My husband traveler, are you sleeping now in France? If a bird of paradise comes into your dreams, it's me." A poem from The Channel Boat by Giacchino Akiko. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com.
Kisses my skin.
Romantika and Fantasie and Michael Buble coming back home. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. The author and her friends seem to be content to stick close to home. Grand adventures have lost some of their appeal. She asks, what's happened to bring this to a point? Susan writes, and again I quote, "For one thing, you realize that sharing a day's details by phone is never as good as sharing a day side by side. Life happens to you simultaneously. You carry the same memories, whose details blend each time you retell them. Apart, you make separate memories. No matter how important, they're just stories to the one who wasn't there. Plus, when you look back, you count too many weeks and months squandered in foolish places for insignificant reasons. And when you look ahead, you don't have to squint anymore to see that the end is nigh, more nigh, all the time. Unquote. From Chicken Soup for the Couple's Soul, the conclusion shortly with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Billy Joel, Until the Night, and Richard Marx, Right Here Waiting. I'm Don Jackson, with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. If you grew up in the 50s and 60s, then I'm sure you can identify with this next scene. The conclusion now of Inseparable by Susan Ager, featured in Chicken Soup for the Couple's Soul. And again I quote, "In middle age, you sometimes feel you have only days left to live. When I was a child, my friends and I played a little game pretending that a nuclear bomb was headed our way. We had 10 minutes to live. What would we do? Where would we go? Whose hand would we want to be holding when the end came?" Paul and Linda McCartney figured this out early. They hung on for 30 years. In the music, the laughter, and the good times, I suspect they forgot they would ever have to let go. Unquote. Inseparable. From Chicken Soup for the Couple's Soul, an incredible story. It was on March 12, 1969, Paul McCartney married Linda Eastman, which prompted John Lennon to wed Yoko Ono just 8 days later. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.